Ever since the Owl House ended in April earlier this year, I've been watching multiple kinds of cartoons again. Some of them are older cartoons that I wanted to rewatch for nostalgic reasons, but the rest are relatively newer with new episodes premiering every week. Some of these recent shows that caught my attention was Hailey's On It. The show premiered on June 8, 2023. It's about a 14-year-old girl named Hailey Banks who dislikes taking risks, which I find kind of relatable honestly. However, that changed in one New Year's celebration where she meets a scientist from the future and she learns how she will save the world from climate change. And the journey to accomplish that starts from her completing her list of things to do. Knowing what is at stake with completing these tasks, Hailey has to overcome her insecurities and anxieties to complete seemingly impossible and/or impractical tasks and grapple with her feelings towards her best friend, Scott. To complicate matters, she has to complete all of these tasks while also fighting off small robots called Chaos Bots that were sent from the future by a still unknown villain in order to stop Hailey from completing the list. From the synopsis alone, this show sounds very interesting to me. I mean, the show has time travel involved as a central part of its story. So that alone makes the show have higher stakes than some other Disney cartoons that have come out in recent years. There are some other aspects of the show that I appreciate as well. Hailey's On It takes place in Oceanside, California, which is quite nice to see as someone who lived in Southern California for most of my life. Not gonna lie, I've always viewed Oceanside as sort of a halfway rest point between LA and San Diego because of its location and smaller population. So seeing this show cover another location nearby my home makes it already relatable. Despite the very interesting premise though, the show itself is not like how it was marketed. To be clear, none of the episodes so far are bad in my view. In fact, I do find myself kind of enjoying parts of it, and I'll get to more of that in a moment. But one thing that feels kinda off about the show is the tone of it. The show hinges on the idea of Hailey doing her list to save humanity from destruction, and the very first episode of the show makes that goal very clear to the audience. The first episode gave me the impression that each episode will involve some high-stakes situation that if it were not completed, it would spell doom for everyone. I was expecting to learn more about the lore of the show and get clues regarding the big antagonist. However, in most of the episodes so far, the characters seem to just go about their lives like nothing important is happening. Sure, every now and then, Hailey, Scott, and Beta verbally acknowledge the stakes of completing the list, and there are a few episodes where they do take situations seriously, like it's life or death. But most episodes are basically just your typical slice-of-life cartoon, like what you see in Big City Greets or KIF. It feels as if the creators of the show wanted to make a story-driven high-stakes show like Amphibia and the Owl House, but Disney stepped in and mandated them to make the show more episodic and lighthearted. There's nothing inherently wrong with episodic shows, of course, but the premise of the show really sets expectations at a level that appears misleading. That being said, it may not be an excellent story-driven show like The Owl House, but it is still a rather decent slice-of-life character-driven show. As a result, I actually did grow to like many of the characters. Hailey right now is definitely my favorite. Being the main character, she would of course be the most developed, but what I also like about Hailey is how she seems rather different compared to other female protagonists from Disney in recent years. While most of them are generally very positive, hyperactive, enthusiastic characters, Hailey is kind of the opposite. She's pretty negative, skeptical, and anxious. However, as the series progressed, she slowly but surely became more confident in herself. She basically goes through a positive growth, feel-good arc, which is a nice change to see considering the last shows I've seen involved taking a positive, enthusiastic girl and traumatizing them or pushing them to insanity. Besides Hailey, the other two main characters are his best friend Scott and a futuristic AI, Beta. I'll admit, Scott isn't really as strong of a supporting protagonist as I wanted. He has his moments, but I do think his stupidity trope is rather overdone.
But these moves are hard. One step with the right, then one step with the left? Who can remember all that?
Scott, that's how you walk. Like every day.
No, I do left foot, right foot, not right foot, left foot. Wait, do I? Is this right? Yeah!
Although I think that might be intentional because Beta, the other supporting protagonist, tends to put down Scott for his stupidity. Thankfully, I do like Beta a bit more than I thought. I find it funny how he screams authority and demands loyalty despite being an AI with a stuffed toy for a body. He kind of reminds me of King to some extent actually. Other supporting characters include Kai and Patricia Banks, who are Hailey's parents. Not much to say about them besides they seem to be pretty decent parents, even Patricia despite focusing a lot on work. But hey, gotta pay the bills of course. There's also AC, who is supposedly Hailey's rival, although it's only one-sided. There's of course the professor, who let Hailey know about her future, and the only complaint I have with her is that we don't see more of her. I guess we'll have to wait later in the season to see more of her impact in the story. Another supporting character that I surprisingly appreciate more than I thought was Christine. Initially, I thought I wouldn't like her because she appeared to be a Mary Sue kind of character where she seems too perfect. But thankfully, as we see more of her, she is actually more well-rounded and has her flaws, making her one of the better characters actually. Also, she's voiced by Amanda Layton, the same person who voiced Polly in Amphibia, and some of that Polly energy makes it through the characters at times.
Trip to buy the world's grossest hamburger, Hailey, or why Scott would think that this would be any fun, but this is the worst anniversary ever.
As of right now though, none of the characters in the show, aside from maybe Hailey, appear that memorable. However, we've only seen 10 episodes so far, so these characters can definitely develop more and hopefully grow out to be more three-dimensional. Overall though, Hailey's On It is a classic example of a show that is clearly going through a phase of trying to develop itself. The closest comparison I can make to the first 10 episodes of the show is actually the first 10 episodes of Amphibia Season 1. When I first watched Amphibia, I had no idea what direction or where the show was heading. Its first episode gave us a mystery to ask about, but most of the episodes actually focused more on the slice of life aspect of Anne and the Planters in order to make people grow to care about them, as it will make the rest of the show matter to us. The first set of episodes of Hailey's On It is essentially trying to do the same thing. Lay out the stakes of the show, but focus on developing the characters first and foremost. While I don't think the show is doing the development as great as Amphibia, it is doing it fine enough for me to continue watching it, and looking forward to seeing what's next. So for those who are considering this show to watch next, I recommend you give it a try as long as you keep your expectations in check. It may not be the next Amphibia, Gravity Falls, or The Owl House by any means, but the show still stands on its own with an interesting premise with an interesting protagonist, both of which allowed the show to have a lot of potential for storylines that might make it an excellent story-driven cartoon. Of course, we won't know if that's the case yet, but knowing that it's possible gives me hope that part of the story-driven era of Disney TVA will live on in one way or another. But of course, these are just my thoughts on Hailey's On It. If you watch the show, let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and give this video a like and subscribe for more content like this. Also, thanks again to Seb13 for contributing to the channel directly, and thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next one.